Let me know if this rings true for you. You've been taught that expressing your emotions is a weakness. Talking about how you feel shows weak character, a lack of strength. And any time that you have ever tried it, you tried to open up, it's blown up in your face. This is the trap that a lot of people, men especially, fall into this pattern where we want to express our emotions. We want to be honest and vulnerable, but it always ends up getting worse. And especially when it comes to repairing a relationship, understanding why is really important. So in this video, I'm going to break down why it's not expressing your emotions that's been seen as a weakness. It's how you're doing it. So I completely understand the paradox that a lot of us guys can be in, right? We're constantly told that as men, we need to bottle up our emotions. We shouldn't complain. We shouldn't vent. We shouldn't feel hurt. We shouldn't show any signs of weakness, of crying. But there's a portion of people that are like, hey, this vulnerability is really attractive in men. A man that knows his emotions is really attractive, and that's what women are looking for. But when you try to do it, it's received really badly. And actually, it seems like your partner may even be more pushed away from you. So then you go back to this idea that I need to keep my emotions bottled up again. This is the pattern that a lot of guys can struggle with. The problem is that as society in general can teach this idea that emotion equals weakness. Having emotions are a weak characteristic to have, and we should be doing things rationally and logically. The problem is, especially when it comes to relationships and relationship repair, this belief wrecks trust really quickly. When you suppress those feelings, or you go the opposite end and you blow up, your partner is left to manage your state. And that specifically is what kills the credibility. That's what kills trust and what is seen as weak. So everyone has it wrong when it comes to what weakness is when it comes to emotions. So this unspoken rule of not showing emotion creates 3 predictable problems in relationships: resentment, rupture, and avoidance. Resentment first. When you swallow your feelings, the pressure builds up. You start keeping score, your tone gets sharp, your partner feels the distance that they can't necessarily explain, but they feel it. This creates a feedback loop where both of you end up assuming that the other one doesn't care. After the resentment, there's the rupture. This is when the pressure finally pops. You snap, you lecture, you get snippy. Even if your point is valid, this emotional spike kills safety. It's like a volcano. The pressure builds up and eventually it explodes. No. What comes after that is there has to be some repair of the blow up. The original issue isn't the issue anymore. It's now the repairing of the new issue, which is the blow up. And then what happens over time is avoidance. Because you get tired of the cycle of the blow up and apologies or repair and up and down, you end up trying to break that cycle by just simply avoiding the hard conversations because you don't trust your partner not to trigger you, or you don't trust yourself to stay steady in the relationship, and therefore nothing gets resolved. And the tension and the relationship overall loses momentum. But all 3 of these come from the same mistake, which is trying to control your feelings by simply hiding them. And there's a lot of research into this, and neuroscience backs this up. Suppression keeps your amygdala, the fear center in your brain, on high alert, and it shuts down the prefrontal cortex, the logic center of your brain, which makes you reactive instead of resilient. The twist is that hiding emotion doesn't give you control. It actually takes away your control. Because your partner can't predict your state, you're unpredictable, the emotional safety within the relationship collapses. This up and down cycle is very difficult to predict. So emotional safety, the consistency, breaks down because you're either hiding your emotions, or you're allowing your emotions to be completely unmanaged in their expression, or you're simply avoiding any sort of discussions whatsoever. What this means is that because of this unpredictability, your partner then feels like they have to do the emotional labor. Either they have to guess your mood, or they have to manage your blow-ups, or they have to push to have difficult conversations. So the reason why I'm saying all this is because when you get into this cycle by yourself, it usually ends up in avoidance, avoiding the difficult conversations, the conversations that still need to be had, and all of the emotional labor is now put on your partner. This is why when we talk about sharing your emotions is seen as a weakness, it's not the actual sharing, it's how it's done. When it's done in an extreme way of explosion and then suppression, and then explosion, then suppression, they're such extremes that they're not done in a managed way. And that is what's seen as weakness, because if you're left in charge of controlling a car and your steering is like this the whole time, it's very difficult to see you as a skilled driver. Other people have to be on high alert because they're like ready to grab the wheel at any point. That's kind of what it is. So it's the how that is seen as weakness. Strength in expressing your emotions is using a predictable process, which we'll get to, but noticing how you feel, regulating it quickly, and being able to speak clearly, that is what rebuilds trust. So how do we build this predictable emotional model to be able to express your emotions, but in a way that actually makes sense and doesn't become a roller coaster? This is all about emotional leadership. Being able to create a system to regulate your emotions is very simple. It doesn't need to be complicated. You need to learn how to acknowledge your emotion. You need to learn how to regulate your state. And then you need to choose behavior that matches your values and your goal, rather than the temporary emotional state that you're in. By doing these 3 steps, this shifts you from trying to control the outcome to controlling your process. You stop trying to manage your partner's reaction and start focusing on your own stability. This in itself makes you safe, it makes you predictable, and it makes you trustworthy. And this means that even when the outcomes may not be exactly ideal, you're still predictable in how you respond. So if your partner's having an off day, it means that you're not blowing up. It means that if you express your emotions in a calm way and your partner doesn't receive them well, you're still not going to blow up. You're still not going to hide those emotions. You're still not going to suppress them. Your predictability creates that safety. And what so many of my members have found is that once they become that safe spot, they become the lighthouse that is very predictable in how they manage their emotions, then their partner over time starts to respond in a much more receptive way. Because when you're expressing that you felt angry, they don't have to worry that you're going to shout, that you're going to scream, that you're going to put pressure on them, that you're going to tell them that they're a horrible person. Developing this process is really important because this shows strength. It shows that you're a human being and that you acknowledge that every human has emotions, whether we like to admit it or not. Every human has emotions, but it's the strength is how you manage those emotions, how you process those emotions. And you can deepen this process very easily by learning different skills. The first main skill to do this is building your emotional literacy. Most people lead with anger or defensiveness when it comes to difficult situations, but these are usually secondary emotions. Primary emotions like hurt, fear, sadness are the things that actually usually drive that anger or defensiveness. So build that emotional intelligence within yourself. Recognize when I feel angry, when I feel defensive, where's that coming from? Is that coming from hurt? Is that coming from fear? Is that coming from sadness? Is that coming from worry? Look deeper into your own emotions and develop that emotional intelligence so that you can get to the root of your own challenge to make it easier for you to be able to respond in a much more calm, effective way. When you start to learn and name the primary emotion, your body becomes a lot calmer and your thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex comes back online. It stops your amygdala from acting up and it actually gets you into a much more calmer state, which helps you to be able to regulate your emotions. The next skill is one of the most important skills in any relationship, period, but especially when it comes to relationship repair, is validation. So if your partner has a different view from you, different idea, different thought, different feeling, you don't have to agree with it to be able to validate their experience. For example, let's say you felt angry at your partner in a moment and you're expressing to your partner, you're saying, hey, when you said XYZ to me, during that moment, I felt angry. And your partner responds with, well, I said that because you were ruining my day. Instead of looking at the logic of, did I ruin her day or didn't I ruin her day? What were my actions? Instead of getting caught up on that, look deeper into what her emotional experience was. This gets away from whether they are right or wrong and more into what is their emotional experience. For example, being able to say, I can totally understand how you would feel like your day was ruined. You'd made all this effort to make the dinner. and I came in and said that I wasn't hungry, I think if I were you, I would have felt really disappointed that all of this work had gone to waste. Is that how you're feeling? In this way, you're not talking about whether you did that on purpose or not. You're actually talking about what was your partner's experience with this. This lowers your own defensiveness, but it also shows your partner that you can handle emotion without collapsing or attacking. Working on these two skills alone build your consistency, and that consistency will build your credibility. This is where the strength comes in. Strength is not shown through defensiveness. It's not shown with how loud you can shout or how someone else can see your point of view. That's not strength. The consistency of the process is what builds credibility. So one calm moment doesn't fix the pattern, but small, steady, clean conversations do. It shows this emotional maturity because you're taking responsibility for your own emotions instead of blaming your partner or completely avoiding or shutting them down. And what this does is this shifts away from reactive behavior, so instantaneous, short-term reaction, and into more of a resilience behavior. Being able to respond, taking responsibility of the situation, your ability to respond. This in itself is what restores emotional safety. And I know I speak a lot about this on this channel. I've done a deep dive into emotional safety. If you want to dig deeper, I'll link to it on the screen and in the description down below. But rebuilding emotional safety is all about being able to create a repeatable pattern, a pattern that works both for you and for your partner as well. Taking the responsibility of your own emotions and cultivating an environment where emotions are okay to express, but they're not going to derail the entire conversation. This takes time. And this is something that can be rehearsed. Now, rehearsed sounds fake, like almost like an actor, right? But the thing is, rehearsals actually cultivate authenticity. And I'm actually thinking about breaking this down deeper in another video. So let me know in the comments if you want me to dig deeper into this. Before I jump into how to rehearse this in an authentic way, this is something that I work on a lot with my members, is building this practice, this repetition, in order to build these skills so that they become your default. So you reprogram your brain in how you respond to these situations. This does take practice, but being able to replicate this is really important for building this trust within the relationship and within yourself. And if you do want to start that journey, then join my Relationship Bootcamp, where you'll learn the same fundamental steps that all my members start with to start repairing and rebuilding your relationship with incredibly important relationship skills, doing it from the ground up. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to potentially work with me and join us. But yeah, being able to do this in a repeatable pattern is really important. And you can do this by rehearsing. Now, a lot of people can panic when that word is thrown out because it sounds like you're faking it. It sounds like you're practicing something that is not real. But rehearsals actually deepen your ability to be able to do this in a more consistent way. If you think about actors, Hollywood actors, rehearsals are really important in order to get in touch with the emotions of the character that they're playing. This is not about faking it. This is about deepening their understanding of the process. Basketball players, they rehearse all the time. They rehearse by going in and practicing their passes, their dribbles, shooting. They play games against each other. This is rehearsals. So this is not about faking anything. This is about developing a skill that is part of a bigger picture. So what can you do to rehearse expressing your emotions? Every single day, you can set aside a couple of minutes to label your emotions, whatever they are. I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel hurt, I feel scared, I feel hopeful, I feel jealous. Label these emotions. Getting into this habit is one of the absolute fundamentals of building your emotional intelligence. Sounds silly. It sounds maybe even childish to some people, but this practice is the foundation to build everything on top of. It's really important. Practice being able to validate every single day, especially validating someone who you don't necessarily agree with. Validating their experience rather than what your experience of this situation is. So for example, if a coworker says, hey, I think John dropped the ball on this presentation, and you disagree, practice validating their experience. I think you feel really let down by John because you worked so hard on putting this presentation together, and then John feels like John fumbled the ball at the end. Is that how you're feeling? That way you're practicing. You're getting out of your own head and into the relationship space. There are many ways to practice this and rewire and make it your default. So it's important to understand that strength isn't hiding emotion. Strength is being able to notice what you feel, regulating your state, and choosing a behavior that supports the trust and the safety of the relationship. But you are human, and not everything goes to plan. Sometimes things escalate without you realizing it. How you manage these escalations to de-escalate them is another skill that you can build on top of this skill. This is really powerful. A lot of people see strength as avoiding conflict. That's not strength at all. It's actually the opposite. Being able to know how to manage and even de-escalate conflict is true strength, because it means that you don't run away from challenges that are actually hidden as opportunities. I've actually done a deeper dive into understanding conflict and how conflict is what actually repairs a relationship in the long term. So I won't dig too much into it now, but understanding that conflict is not something that is a disconnect. Conflict is actually an opportunity for connection. So I won't go into it here. I'll leave you with that deep dive video, and I will see you over there.